Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse podcast brought to you by CATS Consultants, helping doctors keep their pulse on success. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich. I'm joined today with my good friend and one of our coaches, Dr. Alex Kallio. Alex, I want to talk about this idea. Sorry, I didn't let you talk. I want to talk about this idea that I call self-inflicted chaos. Now, you and I have talked many times. Practice can be chaotic. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think on the daily, we all find ourselves probably kind of feeling like we're whether organized or disorganized chaos around us. Sometimes, unfortunately, at our own doing.
Right. I heard somebody call it one time, it's quicksand with a bottom to it. So you don't go completely under, but you just can't get out of it sometimes by yourself, which I thought was a great analogy. But yeah, I see us all the time in practice. We create sometimes more chaos than what we need to create. Chaos in the chiropractic practice is natural anyway, because you get the emergency patient coming in, it throws the schedule off, an exam takes longer than you anticipate, and all of a sudden you're 20 minutes behind, and it just snowballs from there. And but we also do things that could keep us out of some of that chaos if we just put our mind to it. And one of the things that I'm really thinking of is we don't use our calendars to schedule events.
You're reading right where my mind was going first thing too. Which,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you look both calendars of out, non-patient events, but even just using the scheduler correctly to set yourself up, stuff you don't necessarily correlate of giving yourself some time to get paperwork done, to have
Right.
meetings with your staff. That
Right.
if you're not scheduling, if you're throwing one every haphazardly in the schedule and you're not leaving yourself any gap time, at the end of the day, you're going home to do paperwork, or you're feeling like you're buried under and you're not catching up. And so there's so many little things on the calendar that absolutely can make a huge difference.
Huge, and you go and you look at the calendar, and you see a spot 2 hours from now that there's a 20-minute hole, and you think, oh gosh, I'm going to use that to get some paperwork done. But you don't tell anybody on your staff. And before you know it, they've scheduled a new patient there, which is great. But you just also lost your documentation time
Yep.
when a new patient could have been scheduled maybe at a different time that would have worked just as well. And now you're one more step into that chaos. So communication, having great communication with your team is part of avoiding some of that chaos as well.
Absolutely.
And I was talking to a doctor the other day. He was telling me he bought a laser like 3 years ago. And he said, I said, so how's it going? You really like your laser? I always loved the laser. And he said, you know what? We've never used it. He said, I don't even know where it's at. Well, to me, that's kind of a chaotic thing. You go spend this money on a great tool to have in your office, and you've used it so few times you don't even know where it's at.
Absolutely.
That's a little nutty.
Yeah, and that lays in, especially if you spend any time with your staff to, hopefully train them on the benefits of that, and how we're going to bill it and how we're going to schedule it, and you do all of that legwork and then not to use it.
Right.
You've wasted time, money, and just energy on all of that. So yeah, if we're going to have those kind of things, we need to have a game plan of how to schedule, bill, train, but then how are we implementing it? How are we keeping it top of mind too?
Right. And, implementation goes a long way. I know Marissa talks about this all the time. If we're not implementing, we're doing nothing but really creating chaos. So, have you implemented good procedures? Have you implemented time for staff development? Have you implemented time to teach everybody how to manage your schedule correctly? I mean, there's so many different levels of implementation.
Well, and we probably all run into this too, where we've had a meeting, we had a staff meeting, we talked about it, okay, we've got these steps, but then we never got it put on the calendar. And
Right.
so we had this great game plan, this great discussion. And then 2 months later, hey, whatever happened to this? We didn't get that going. And well,
Yeah.
it never got put on the calendar to actually, in a due date, and have those kind of things implemented on there as well. So best intentions, but the follow through just kind of fell off.
It falls off. And that's a great place to create some implementation strategy is with staff meetings. Do you have somebody taking notes? Do you have somebody managing the notes and pushing it forward? Who's developing the action steps? And you should always go back in your staff meetings to the last staff meetings notes and what do we talk about? What do we need to push forward? What was a dumb idea a week later? And so often we wind up just treading water from our staff meetings because we wind up talking about the same thing over and over because we don't remember what we talked about last time.
But and we've gotten into a point of trying to, assign, okay, who's taking care of that? What's the due date for that?
Right.
And then, circling back on that to make sure, hey, did we get this done? And yeah,
Right.
which is a great point. Being able to come back and actually keep note from those meetings of who was supposed to do what by when, and actually following up on it.
Yeah, exactly. Another place where we could talk about implementation too and more chaos is our treatment plans and our communication to our patients of those treatment plans. If you've got a practice that patients are dropping out a lot, not finishing their care plans, not following through, or the ones, I love these, the ones that say, yeah, doc, I don't need that, even though you were the doctor and recommended it. And we let patients kind of get away with some of those things and not follow through on our recommendations, which to me creates total chaos in your practice because you can't predict now what your future cash flows look like, what your schedule is going to look like if you're just letting patients manage their own care plans. So I think we've got to get really better at doing those kind of things, and I know you're great at it.
And that's why we just have this talk, this week in meeting too of, if you're gonna, I think we had it on Doctor the Casual Care Plan,
Right.
out,
Right.
if you're haphazardly having people come in, it's really hard to get a good gauge of your day, because
Right.
you're going to have way more walk-ins or call-ins, and we're all going to get those anyway. But
Sure. Sure.
um, if you're managing somebody well, of whether you're adding, hey, I want them back Monday for, just dry needling, or I want them back for rehab, or I want them back for an X-ray, or whatever it is. But getting that, having the foresight to prescribe it, put it on the schedule, and not just, well, hey, let's see how we're doing, and we'll kind of wing it when you're in next time.
Right.
It's just a recipe for your day to go sideways really quick.
Really quick. And when you're looking at your schedule and there's really no template to it, you don't have specific places for specific events. And when I say events, like a new patient exam, and we're just stuffing them in wherever we think they'll fit, that creates a chaotic schedule.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
chaotic
would much
schedule.
rather have, if I schedule somebody back for, an adjustment of dry needling, and we get to that appointment and we don't need to do the dry needling that day. Well, great. I've got 5 to 10 extra minutes
Sure.
to get something else done. I'd much rather have a little extra time somewhere than be short.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely. So you've got to have, in order to keep the chaos down, you've got to have a really good relegated schedule. And so I'm going to challenge the doctors out there listening to us. How long does it take you to do an exam? How long does it take to do an adjustment? How long does it take a patient in therapy? How long are all those events? And inside of understanding how long you spend on those events is where your schedule is.
well, and that is it. Do you know?
Exactly.
Do you know how long on average? And again, I mean, throw us out, umpteen different scenarios that sure are going to change that. But on average, what are you taking? Do you know how long you're spending on those? And then scheduling accordingly, or adding more time if somebody has a new injury, or,
Right.
they're coming in for extra work. Don't wing it on the
Right.
schedule.
Exactly. Don't just stuff them in somewhere.
Yeah.
So doctors, have your staff time you. Write down, what is your average length of time that you're in the exam, for example. I think that's really a really important process. And those are a lot of the things that we as coaches really help our practices with, is helping not have so much chaos, helping you guys have great procedures in place that fit your practice, not what somebody else did 20 years ago. And really helping your staff understand how to manage the practice while you're seeing your patients. And
Yeah.
those kind of things are important. If you don't have that 30,000-foot viewpoint from a coach, then you kind of lose that perspective because you're just
Yeah.
in the forest and you can't see the trees.
Yeah. Well, to that end, an office that's updated procedures in
Right.
last year, the last five, the
Right.
last 10 years, when was the last time that you changed how you implemented or brought in a patient, or how you took them through your clinic? We've changed that several times over the last 5 years,
Sure.
not just Okay, we've always done it this way, so this is how we do it. Patients have changed, times have changed. The way we onboard people has changed. So, has that
Yep.
been? Have you stepped back and looked at just even the basics of how your patients are? How are they finding you? How are they getting your paperwork? How are they submitted to you? What's your furniture layout in your? I mean, down to basics. There's so many things that
Right.
hopefully have changed in your offices over the years. But if they haven't, that's could be a starting point.
Yeah, and that's a great point. We always say that every 15 to 20 patient visits that you grow by per day on average, your procedures need to change too.
Yeah.
And your office flow may need to change. I can't tell you how many times we rearranged furniture and all kinds of things. It was just a constant thing. And it's amazing when you do keep up with implementing those kind of strategies. It's amazing how much more efficient your practice becomes.
Oh, absolutely. And it's kind of fun. Patients, that kind of stuff too.
Oh yeah, they love
Patients
it.
who've been coming in for a while, that's the first thing. Oh, what'd you change up in here? This looks great. This looks
Yeah,
better, or just what's different,
right.
kind of thing. And it keeps people, again, you kind of get that burnout. You're coming 3 times a week or once a month or whatever for however long, patients they become, kind of store blind to
Yeah,
what's around
exactly.
them unless it changes periodically.
Exactly. So, doctors out there, there are ways to not create self-inflicted chaos. There's enough chaos in practice to begin with just naturally. So let's not do things that make it worse. Alex, thanks for being on here today. You're awesome. We
Thanks for having me.
appreciate you coaching with us and gosh, I'm not even going to say how long we've known each other. So, hey, everybody out there, if you haven't done so yet, go to catsconsultants.com. Check out everything we do to help doctors grow their practice, grow their profits, and have the practice of their dreams. So, if you want to learn more about what we do, go to the website. You can schedule a breakthrough call with us. They're free. We do these just because we like to give back to the profession. Let's see how we can best help you. So, on behalf of everybody at Cats Consultants, thanks for tuning in to today's KC CHIROpulse podcast. That was a tongue twister, and we'll see you next time.